Welcome back to Man vs. Meeple, the show where we talk about all things board game related. Today we're bringing you a game that is just released on Kickstarter. It's called Divinity Derby by Ares Games, and it uses a very intelligent card drafting betting mechanism in the game that I don't think we've seen before.
Yeah, you're betting,
Yeah.
and it's a race game. And the word derby totally fits here,
Sure.
except instead of horses, we're talking about sort of mythical creatures.
Right.
And I have to say, when I first heard that, I was thinking, I don't know, it sounds like a pretty basic game.
Right.
But there's some stuff going on here that I've not seen in any other game, personally.
Right. Yeah. So the whole idea behind the game is that everyone is representing a god, and the gods are betting on which one of these mythical creatures are the fastest.
Or the slowest.
Or the slowest, right. So the board itself is a racetrack, so
Yeah.
to speak, and everyone starts behind the green line, and they're racing to get across the red line. And there's some breaks in there depending upon the number of players. There's a bets that will happen in particular areas depending upon the number of players that are participating.
It makes the mid-race game a little more interesting than if you just bet at the beginning.
Right, but it is a 3 to 6 player game.
Yeah.
So how it works is, this is really, really unique. There are 6 mythical creatures, right? And each of the mythical creatures are represented by not only a miniature, and this is a prototype, but we're hearing that there's going to be a standard edition and a deluxe edition
Right.
with painted miniatures. But each of the miniatures will start behind the starting line, and each of them will have a particular number of tokens that can be used to be bet on.
Right.
And it increases with the number of players. But we have a 4-player game set up here, so there's 3 tokens per creature. Once those tokens run out, you can't bet on that creature anymore.
Yeah, and it's what's really interesting is you're not betting blindly.
Right.
So these cards get set out that have all the mythical creatures on them. They have various numbers. There's a
Yes.
top number and a bottom number that represents its sort of fast and its slower speed. The cool twist here is, as you can see here, there's these little tableaus of the cards, eight cards for a 4-player game,
That's
right?
right.
But only 2 people share each tableau.
Right.
So there's a lot of hidden information in here. So in this game, for instance, I would have access to these 2 tableaus. Jeremy and I would share this one.
Yeah.
And Jeremy would have that with another player.
Right.
So you're able to look down and see, okay, I'm going to be able to make the Phoenix go pretty fast.
Right.
But Jeremy might not know that.
Right.
So once you've gathered some of that information, you're able, in turn order, to place some bets on the various creatures.
Right. So the bets work like this. Each player has 11 betting cards. Over the course of the game, you're going to bet on 3 races. Each race has 3 bets in them. So you're only going to use 9 of your 11 bets in the
Right.
game. How it works is, starting with the first player, they'll take one of their cards, and these cards range from betting the first player to get across first creature to last place.
Last place, maybe one of the first 3, one of the last 2. There's even one that you're going to bet on that says, I think this guy's going to be disqualified.
Right.
Which is an interesting mechanic.
So how that works is that players will, in turn order, they'll take one of their 11 cards, and they're going to bet using the information that they have in front of them. They're going to place it face down, and they'll take one of the tokens and say, I'm going to bet on the Griffin to be in first, second, or disqualified. Only that player knows that information, right?
Right.
And you'll keep going around the board until 2 bets are placed, with a 3rd bet coming midway through the race.
Right, and what's interesting about this betting, too, is when Jeremy makes that bet, someone might be sharing his tableau that sees all sorts of Griffin cards. So
Right.
he's thinking, okay, Jeremy must be betting on that Griffin to place high.
Yeah.
Of course, Jeremy knows that, so he might actually have a different plan in mind, where he
Right.
might be trying to burn those Griffin cards for their low values.
Right. So also on these racing cards, you have ones that are, as David mentioned, you have fast speed, you have slow speed, but some of them have dirty tricks, and that's a plus number that is on the fast speed. There's a rule in there that says that when you play one of these cards, it has to be the first card that you play from your hand. Now, this is the trick. On your turn, when you're actually racing the creatures, you have to pick a card from your left and your right tableau at the same time. So I would take 2 cards, one here and one from here, and then you play one of them for their fast speed and one for their slow speed. The dirty tricks, in some cases, and I'll find one of these, for here, the Phoenix has a 1 fast speed and a 0 slow speed, but he also has a +3.
Right.
So you can make them go faster by cheating, basically. When you cheat, you're going to take that card and throw it into this area over here, and there's one for each of the 3 races that you'll be participating
Right.
in. The other card that you've used will go into a discard pile. Now, Once the race is done, you'll be going through that stack and pulling 2 random ones out. Those creatures will be disqualified that come up. And there's some Zeus protection cards in there that could come up too, where
there's a mix.
None of them are disqualified.
Yeah, in that protection stack, there's going to be at the end of the game, or at the end of a race, a mix of the protection cards, and then whatever dirty trick cards for various creatures are in there. So if you bet on someone to be disqualified, of course, you're going to want to use as many dirty tricks with that creature as possible.
Right.
And other people don't know that. It's easy in this game to look at what someone's doing and think you know what they're up to.
Right.
But we've played some games where you actually have to adjust your plan, because if you see someone taking the Griffin far around and you bet on the Griffin to be last place, you might try to gather your points elsewhere, because as Jeremy was saying at the beginning, you're not only going to be placing one bet, you're placing 2 bets at the beginning and then a 3rd bet in the middle of the game. So you're able to sort of like cut your losses on one if you see that's not going to happen, and really focus on the other 2.
So the adjustment in the plan comes with the 3rd bet. When one of the creatures moves across a particular line, again, depending upon the number of players, a 3rd bet will take place, starting with the player who moved that creature across the line. So they have an advantage right then, because they'll have the first pick of the tokens that they want to use. A 3rd bet is placed, and then the game resumes with the next player in turn order. And then once all the cards are used from both of the tableaus, so again, in a 4-player game, all 8 cards from each of the different tableaus will be used. And then you're going to take those creatures and move them into the finish line.
Yeah,
so
basically the placings. In the games we've played, I don't think we got one creature all the way to the finish line.
No.
But you're basically taking them in the order that they appear and placing them out there.
Right.
Then, as we said, you pick up that protection stack, deal out 2. Some people may be disqualified. You adjust the order and slide them down, and then score your points for the bets that you made.
Yeah, you'll reveal all of your bets in turn order. Any of the ones that you got correct will go underneath your God token. Yeah, and you'll do that 3 times.
Yeah, you do that 3 times, which is simple enough to think about, but you have to remember the bets that you've placed thus far, you can't use those bet cards again.
Right.
So you're running, if you use, I'm going to bet in the first 3 places, I'm going to bet in the first 3 places, you're now out of the card that says you're betting on the first 3 places.
Right.
So you're going to have to adjust the way and the style that you play. Instead of trying to get someone up front, you might have to play a card where you're trying to slow someone down or disqualify someone.
Right.
So you can run out of cards, and that does play a role in the 3rd round when you have much fewer betting cards.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really intelligent game.
It really is.
It adds that element of hidden information that you don't know that other players are using, shared information that you have with your neighbors, but then you're racing not only creatures, but you're racing to bet the right tokens on the ones that you know. So there's a lot of player interaction that's kind of deceptively hidden in the game. It's not direct confrontation, but it's grabbing those bets that you need to grab before other players do.
Right, and there's just enough luck to really bring home the sort of horse racing aspect to this, in my opinion, too, because there's enough creatures to where you might have information and you have some information, but you don't have full information. And you might bet on a horse or on a creature to place last, not really knowing how much of that creature's over there on the other tableaus. Right. And you might luck out. Yeah. The other players might have plans to get people forward. There's been a couple games where the Phoenix was way in the back, and I had placed on a bet on the Phoenix to place last, and it became very clear that the other tableaus probably didn't have many Phoenix cards, or if they did, that's not what the other players were focused on. So it's a bit of a mind game, too, to figure out what other players are up to.
Yeah, which requires the players to pay attention to what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, you cannot just play your own game, for sure. You have to pay attention to what everyone else is doing.
Now, there is some, and I think we might be spoiling some stuff right now, but there are a couple cards. There's 3 of them that were given to us by Ares. These are called God cards, right? And they can be used, one of your 3 cards per race. These allow you to kind of break the rules, so to speak. Breakers. And there's even these little fate tokens that at the start of the game, each player will place a fate token on a particular location on the racetrack. And then when a creature hits that, one of the cards will trigger off of those fate tokens and allow them, again, to manipulate the game or the race in a particular way. And I think that's one of their stretch goals.
Yeah, I think it is one of their stretch goals. It would add a nice little extra flavor to the game, but I have to say, I really enjoyed this game in its base form. It's a really pretty game, and when we got it, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but it's really fun.
Right. So, guys, that is Divinity Derby by Ares Games. If you want something unique and you haven't played before, I've never played a betting game like this with this shared information. It's really, really cool. Go check it out on Kickstarter right now. Make sure you guys make comments below, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and everything else that we do here at Man vs. Meeple, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.